You know, when I first heard The Backrooms was first coming out this year and I went out and watched it, I thought to myself, nothing is topping this movie. And then this movie came out. And this is no diss to Kane Pixels or The Backrooms. In all reality, I enjoyed both movies. They provided me two different flavors when it comes to horror. But Obsession gave me something I haven't felt in a modern horror movie in a while. Genuine chills and creepiness that really stayed with me after leaving that freaking theater. Like, holy shit. I still have scenes burnt into my soul, my brain, and we are going to be talking about the new Obsession movie as well as some of the iconic scenes that came from this film. And also draw a little bit of parallels to the Backrooms movie, what it did better, and ultimately why Obsession is just a really good horror movie. Don't hide in the comments because I will know. Hi, my name is Rapolo Laurent. If you're new to this channel, I talk about horror-related things, whether that be internet-related horror, games, social media, or as of recently, both the Backrooms and Obsession movies, which have totally captured my attention as of recently, and we're going to break down the movie Obsession, also make a few comparisons to the Backrooms movie, which I also made a video on, so be sure to check that out if you haven't yet, before this video you're currently watching. But both films did such a great job at making me feel eerie and uneasy. I'll get into the distinction with Obsession specifically, but I can't tell you the amount of times I have been let down as a fan of horror going to see a blockbuster horror film like Smile, only to be let down over and over and over and over again by countless films, modern horror films on the big screen. Hollywood horror, I just feel like, has this reputation of just being so predictable. Generally, it follows a very Hollywood formula. Like, do you get what I mean by that? It's just predictable. I can smell every decision in a horror film from a mile away, but it's just very vanilla. And I like vanilla, but I also like my rainbow sprinkles. I know, I'm in the 10% of the population that prefers vanilla over chocolate, but don't click away just yet because of that one bad take, because there will be plenty of delicious, good takes. We're going to get into what I think is not just horror film of the year, but perhaps movie of the year. Because predictability isn't necessarily a bad thing when it comes to horror films, right? Like, if you're a fan of movies, and it's specifically horror movies, you can predict a lot of things. But the way that a film takes you on that journey, Obsession specifically, highlighting this emotion of despair as I'm watching this movie, the way that they have this despair emotion within me just lingering throughout the whole movie, I thought was just amazing. So get out your popcorn and pop out your energy drinks. I have a C4 Hawaiian Punch. Leave a comment down below what energy drink you drink, and perhaps I'll try it in the next video. And also, obviously, spoilers. Go check out this movie. What are you doing watching this video? You should really go check out that film before watching this video. And I know I'm shooting myself in the foot by saying that if you haven't seen it, but I truly do recommend watching the movie before watching this video. But without further ado, let's get into the video. What makes Obsession such a unique movie to me is just how relentless the psychological terror I felt while watching this movie. Now, generally, internet-related horror gives me the biggest spooks, the biggest chills, but watching Obsession gave me that same feeling, as if I'm watching a original horror ARG online, or reading a creepy story online. Obsession gave me that same feeling. It had some internet concepts that I noticed when watching this movie, and the way that they executed the adaptation with these internet concepts onto the big screen, and seeing these like iconic scenes online on like TikTok just sold me to go out and watch this movie. Now, obviously the Backrooms did the same thing, Be sure to check out my breakdown on that if you want to see some analysis on the Backrooms movie. But to quickly summarize, I mentioned how the use of liminality was such a strong theme in that movie, whereas in Obsession, the use of psychological horror, practical effects, just like the Backrooms with its practical effects, and overall how this movie executed unnerving scenes was very akin to internet-related horror, but more importantly, it was very effective. Now, this comes as no surprise considering the director of this movie, a man who goes by the name of Curry Barker. If you go over to his wiki page, you will see his involvement in making independent films known as The Chair or Milk and Cereal. I will link these down below, but you can see how his earlier work and his style of creating eerie scenery just bleeds on over to his blockbuster hit Obsession. He also dabbled in comedy sketches with a friend with the channel that goes by That's a Bad Idea. Very clever. Quick side note about this director as well, even though he uploaded content to YouTube from both a comedy perspective to a horror perspective, he doesn't consider himself a YouTuber. However, his close association to the internet is something to be noted because even to something like the Backrooms movie, we can see some comparable patterns. This attempt that the Backrooms and Obsession took with their movies to sort of stray away from traditional horror per se, horror in Hollywood, which was once a genre made up of monsters, killers, ghosts, demons, we are instead met with, in this movie, a character named Nikki. Now, Nikki is our main threat or cryptid in this movie, this one woman. You've probably seen a lot of creepy scenes online, so you know what I'm talking about. Now, you can argue that Nikki is possessed by a demon, but I beg to differ. Before we get too deep into her character, let me quickly run down the story. Basically, the main plot of Obsession is involving two characters named Bear and Nikki, who I briefly touched on before is the main threat of the movie. Starts out pretty typical in a typical, romance plot where our character Bear, codename Fuck My Chud Life, has feelings for Nikki, but it is implied from Ian, his best friend, when asking her about Bear. She replies she sees him more of a brother. This destroying our character's self-confidence, so when he is asked by Nikki when they're alone in the car, she's being dropped off home, if you have any thing that you want to say or you have any feelings that you want to convey, now is the time to do so. Big Chungus, aka Bear, pretty much wusses out from conveying the truth. This then leads to an inadvertent wish that is granted, where he comes across a wrapped candy, referred to as a one-wish willow. Now, I will give some benefit of doubt here to our Chud Bear, because it is at this point he wishes Nikki to be obsessed with him, not knowing the wish will ultimately come true. Now, this is a very pivotal first controversy I came across with this movie. I was discussing this with my own lady, and we came to an agreement on something. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But I don't know, I feel like if you care about someone, even in jest, you don't really say out loud, I want this person obsessed with me. I feel like you go more for a wish, like, I wish this person to be in love with me or something. I don't know. I'm not sure if that would have made a difference, wording it that way. However, this could be chalked off to something just in passing, in jest, something of a joke Bear mentioned, because, ultimately, who would think that a wish would come true from a candy bar, right? So I will give some benefit of doubt here, and I harken back to trying to connect a demon to Nikki. I don't think this is a demon. I just think it's a totally different entity. You can leave your comments down below if you think it is a demon, but I don't get the sense that it is a demon necessarily that took over Nikki. It is whatever power in this universe that grants wishes or whatever. I think that just took control over Nikki. But after this wish, this then turns into a series of unnerving events and iconic scenes, which has been all over my social media, meme to death. Such as this one that I'm sure you guys have all seen.
Oh, no.
What?
No, 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 don't do that! I thought we were having
We are. Sit
Why
down.
does it matter? I thought we were having a nice
We are.
date.
We are.
Where she goes, no, 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 no. I thought we were having a good time. Like, that's such an iconic scene. Now, there is a distinction I wanted to highlight before we talk about some of the scenes and the themes of this movie. Sometimes when it comes to wish-related plots in fiction, there's this trope where you wish something and there's this cynical spin to the wish. Like if you aren't specific enough. Follow me here for a second. Remember how I referenced before our main character before might be a chud? Now, this theme and topic has been discussed before, but it didn't really hit me until this scene.
She's sleeping. It's me.
You are you, Nikki.
Please don't wake her up. Just kill me.
The real Nikki is pleading with Bear to kill her while the real entity taking control over her body is asleep, because this relationship that was wished upon her from Bear, all the stuff her body is doing, her behavior that she has no control over. But what is our character Bear's response to this request from Nikki to end her life?
What would be so bad? What's so bad about being with me?
I've never been with you, Bear.
What's so bad about being with me? Now, I don't think I really need to go into detail why this is such a fucked up way of thinking. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. But Nikki then tells Bear that it's not real, that that isn't the real her that is obsessed with him. But he still disregards this major contradiction. I mentioned before how Bear's wish wasn't misconstrued though. We can confirm this because when Ian, his best friend, wishes for $1 billion from the Wish Willow, he got exactly that. He got $1 billion. He got exactly what he wished for. Someone that is obsessed with him. And that isn't the real Nikki. Side note, similar to the Backrooms, it's never explained how these wishes are being done. As I said in my Backrooms video about the Backrooms itself, the One Wish Willows granting the wishes in this universe is not explained by some convoluted reason. It just is a thing in this universe. Just like the Backrooms in the Backroom movie is just a thing. Both directors understanding less is more sometimes. It would have totally ruined the film for me if we try to rationalize why and how these things function in each universe. But to refocus on Bear's wish, who knows, in a car by himself with just him and Nikki, she could have somewhat had some romantic feelings for Bear, and that was all taken away with just one wish, because love and obsession are not the same thing. The way that they show that this is no longer our original character Nikki though, my god, how well executed that was. I can't show this scene for guideline reasons, but the scene where Bear leaves for work and she's just standing at the door waiting for him to come back, and she just pisses and defecates herself on the carpet, which is very, very, very unsettling and shows how morbid this Nikki alternate, her obsession is with Bear. Now, to give Bear some credit, the way he does try to help Nikki throughout all this is commendable, because the very moment I would have seen that scene where she exclaims, the love isn't mutual anymore, the way her face gets in the shadows, how disfigured it gets. It's so akin to the same kind of face mutilation I would see on like TikTok horror pages or YouTube ARGs. This is where I feel like Mr. Barker's internet influence really shines for me visually. The literal chills I get when I see this uncanny version of Nikki. Legit, I can't stop thinking about it, and I hated that I had to find pictures of this scene again. It's so genuinely off-putting. But again, to get back to our character Bear, the way he puts up with this new Nikki in the beginning is a commendable trait, and does genuinely try to help and support this alternate. But alas, it's all in vain. He gets to a point where he tries to seek help to change her back to the way she was before making the wish. He realizes a number to call on the One Wish Willow, and hoping to get a solution, he is faced with an ultimatum for this wish to end. He either kills himself, or Bear has to kill her and end her suffering. Realizing both situations are not something he wants to do, he chooses option 3, which is to just be by her side and support her, even though all the fucked up shit the alternate version of Nikki does throughout the movie. In this very same scene where he calls the phone number on the candy bar, probably the scariest factor is confirmed in this scene though. The man over the phone actually has access to the real Nikki, and I'm literally so uneasy when I say this, but you can literally hear Nikki screaming over the phone, confirming she is suffering while not having access to her real body. So what good does just being by this alternate Nikki do if the real Nikki is suffering? Like, before, we did get confirmed that the real Nikki isn't the one interacting with Bear in that nighttime conversation. But the manner in which they show the real Nikki suffering over the phone leaves me with much more sympathy for her and despair at the same time. Her having to suffer throughout the story it just must have been such a hell for her. We even get glimpses of the real Nikki in that scene where she randomly screams in terror after kissing Bear, almost as if by surprise she finds herself kissing Bear in his room. And looking back at that scene, I can see why she's so horrified and backing away from Bear, because prior to that, it was the alternate Nikki doing all of that. And when she snapped out of it for a second, she's horrified to find herself in the situation she's in, because she never consented to that in the first place. Again, I don't think Bear purposely had bad intentions, and he put up a lot with Nikki trying to guide her. But the reason I'm calling him a chud is because not so much that he's trying to abuse Nikki on purpose, but again, the inability to put yourself in another girl's shoes. Someone you supposedly love and not considering what she wants. And getting defensive when she asks you, the real Nikki, to free her from the suffering by killing her. I don't know, I just found it very like incel adjacent behavior from Bear, even if it wasn't done with intent. This imperfect character that Bear represents, I believe it to be just a representation or a metaphor for your ordinary guy off the street. Even someone like myself, having blind spots, I might not consider another person's feelings. I might not consider my partner's feelings in certain situations. But it's turned up to the max in this movie with these choices that Bear ultimately fails to consider and think thoroughly. I feel like us as a male species, right? Like we all have like a certain extent of misogyny in us. And even if it's not something like hitting a woman or something like that, just exemplified through Bear just not considering his partner or the real Nikki's feelings in this matter. That failure to listen to the real Nikki had grave consequences at the end of the day, even if he wasn't outright just abusing her physically. But of course, whether you're a man or a woman, we should all recognize on always trying to improve on not being so eager to be dismissive of someone or thinking we have all the answers like Bear. We're human, we're not perfect, but just a little self-reflecting once in a while about our behavior and decision-making skills, I feel like could go a long way. If Bear did that just once, especially once he realized how deep in the hole he was in, I feel like could have solved a lot of things. It's your responsibility to actually solve the situation, not take the easy way out, which is having the real Nikki suffer and you just put up with the alternate version of her like behavior throughout the movie. And if solving that was killing Nikki the way she asked initially, you have to man up and give her what she wants to end her suffering. Take this other scene with Bear where he is with his other friend Sarah. She has goals and aspirations of making it to college and making a good life for herself. This is reinforced when Bear goes out to visit her at her car. It's also at this point in the movie though where the alternate Nikki is completely dangerous and unhinged at this point. He is also exhausted and fed up with Nikki, and I get that. But why on earth would you put someone you possibly have feelings for, supposedly? Why would you put her at risk Sarah, knowing you have this entity girlfriend that is obsessed with you and would probably kill someone at this point for someone else just talking to you. Me and my lady were talking about this scene endlessly because also, how on earth do you have the energy to even flirt and try and make a new love connection with someone else when you already have so much on your plate with a previous love connection? This scene of Sarah and Bear in the car, we're watching this in the theater and I know at least, that Nikki's gonna show up. But man, remember how I said before that predictability isn't necessarily a bad thing, depending how you take us along this journey, depending how these scenes are executed. Because the horrifically beautiful thing about this scene is, even though we know the scene is coming, the true gruesomeness of what Nikki does to Sarah by breaking the window and offing her in such a grotesque manner by slamming her head on the steering wheel over and over and over again. No sound but the noise of her head hitting the wheel. It was just truly an unbearable thing to watch, no pun intended. And I mean that with the utmost compliment to the director Barker for scarring me for the rest of my life from that scene. The practical effects here was that akin to some iconic movies such as The Thing, where they use real life dolls, animatronics, and dummies to show the most iconic horror scenes in cinema history. According to a Forbes article that I found here, the whole scene with Sarah's death was shown by using a real dummy rather than just all of it being CGI, like many blockbuster horror movies. Immense points for that. I really appreciate the callback to practical effects in cinema, rather than just everything being CGI. And to compare that to the Backrooms, all the weird rooms were actually built in real sets, ramps that led to nothing, random holes in the wall. I hope more movies use real practical effects like this in their movies, because it truly is a dying art due to CGI. But ultimately, Bear is the reason Sarah died here in this scene. And if he just put himself in either Nikki's shoes or Sarah's shoes, possibly realizing at some point I'm putting her life in danger, I should avoid Sarah. I really do appreciate how imperfect Bear's character is, though. It really served the narrative and the themes of the story very well. We shortly get the conclusion of the story after this scene, though, where Bear is seeing no other option left but to kill himself to free Nikki. He finally does so. And the ironic part here is, after Bear swallows the pills, seeing there is no other option, Nikki uses the One Wish Willow on Bear to have him fall in love with her. And you could just tell his autonomy was now taken away. And that's not the real Bear anymore. That's fallen in love with her after Nikki uses the One Wish Willow on her. But man, oh man, it's very rare that an ending of a film sticks so well with me like glue. Like an ending from a movie from Inception or something like that. Like that level of ending, if you've ever seen that movie. In Obsession, we finally set Nikki free from her torment. She has autonomy back in her body. But it is no happy ending, because although Bear kills himself to set Nikki free, she is left in the room with Bear, Sarah, and Ian, all dead from the alternate Nikki. So although her torment has ended in one reality, it has only just begun in another reality. And the cries, man, her cries sounding so eerily realistic, it just put the knife in the wound that I felt for her even more. I've never felt so sympathetic for one character before to this extent in fiction. The acting from, might butcher this name, Indy Navarrete, just made this movie so much creepier than it already was with her acting. And that morbid song that they played in the credits, adding to the ending even more, increasing the despair of Nikki, the character that I'm so sympathetic for at this point. She is alive in the end, but she's also alone, facing the consequences set forth for her because of Bear, someone she may have been interested in the beginning if he just conveyed her feelings to her, despite any self-confidence issues. I cannot stress how much I want people to see this movie, and I brought up some comparisons to the Backrooms movie when it came to practical effects, not explaining the rules of the universe, why things are the way that they are, less is more, the acting being superb from both actors and actresses in both movies. But when it comes to the Backrooms, I feel like I felt more entertainment value as a fan of the Backrooms, seeing this on the big screen. And yes, there were very creepy scenes through the use of liminal horror, but Obsession made me feel the emotion of despair, and that's very hard to bring out of someone. It's a very big high as someone who loves to watch horror on the internet or old school movies. It is truly a very hard emotion to bring out of someone. And ultimately, while the Backrooms may trap you with its infinite rooms and liminality, Obsession made me feel even more trapped through its psychological horror and emotional prison that I felt for Nikki. And that's where I think I'm going to end today's video. To my left, you can check out some of my other horror content. I wanted to thank you guys for 1,000 subs, a milestone I feel like every YouTuber is proud to achieve. Let me know your thoughts in the comment below about this movie Obsession and what scene really fucked you up, because man, I've seen the most fucked up, uncanny shit on the internet, but this movie legit scarred me with all of its scenes. But I'm your internet bro, Raph, and until the next video, I am outski.